Welcome to the Wrestling in the Dark podcast. I'm Mason, and I'm a completely blind wrestling fan, and the WITD podcast is the only place where you're going to hear about wrestling from a blind person's point of view. This week has been an absolutely huge one for wrestling fans because the Wednesday Night Wars, AEW versus NXT, finally got underway. But the action's not just in the ring, it's at the announcer's table too, because for someone like me, the only way to experience what's going on in the ring is through the eyes and the mouths of the commentary, which is why I started the Wednesday Night Commentary Wars League table, where I'll be ranking all of the announcers from the respective teams. So if you want to know how AEW's commentary team did for this initial debut episode of AEW's Dynamite, stick around for the review and make sure you subscribe and watch the NXT review and the rankings video when that comes out in a few days. I was really happy that I could finally watch Dynamite. The fact that we knew that it was starting October 2nd was a really good thing, because we knew so far in advance, and it's really built up that anticipation. So I came into this with a sense of sort of excitement and relief of just getting to experience finally what they were going to give to us. The speculation's over and we can finally experience it, sort of like getting out of the car at the end of a long journey, except it's more like being at the airport, because it's like, yes, I'm finally here, and now I can start the next part of the journey, which is the AEW Dynamite storylines, etc, etc. But yeah, I actually thought this was a really, really good first episode. There was lots of stuff that I enjoyed. There was a few things that I didn't enjoy quite as much, but for the most part, and in hindsight, I think I enjoyed this more than I thought I did directly afterwards. I've had a few days to sort of stew on it and go through my notes and look at them and try and make sense of it all, and I definitely think that I enjoyed this a lot. So let's jump right into it. The first match was Cody versus Sammy Guevara, and Tony Schiavone was talking about the fact that this is a huge deal for both guys, and I thought that it did a really good job of building up how important it was. Just talking about the fact that it's going to go down in history as the first televised match, the fact that they're kicking it off, I just thought that it was really good for both of them. I really liked the fact that Sammy Guevara's arrogance played into this and his disrespect for Cody. I actually really like that Cody seems to have a bit of a target painted on him because of his newfound authority within AEW. There's the younger guys who are looking to make a name for themselves are sort of going after Cody to do that, and I just thought that this match worked really, really well and was also quite high scoring for its calibre. I really like that they did a couple of pay-per-views before kicking off the TV product, because it's allowed for a little bit of history and for some of the storylines to develop naturally. And I really like the fact that Excalibur was playing up that Darby Allin gave Cody a lot of trouble with his speed and agility, and the fact that Cody might struggle with that with Sammy Guevara as well, because it just really plays up on the history that they've developed so far. Lets you know that Cody is a little bit slower and that Sammy is going to be full speed ahead, and just you know what to expect. And I just thought it was a really nice way of building up the match. And then Sammy sort of proves that point straight away, because he backflips over Cody, he hits a drop kick, and then we get a moonsault press for the near fall, and I thought that was really cool. There's a little bit of showboating, and Sammy ends up slapping Cody again, the younger guys disrespecting him, trying to wind him up and just show that they think that they're better. Really like that. Sammy's arrogance was just a thing that played through this whole match, so I thought that it was a nice little through line. Then Cody fights back again a bit, and he gets a figure four on Guevara, and Excalibur picks up his first point by talking about the fact that Guevara's got a long reach, and he's got long limbs and a good reach, and plays up as he's trying for the ropes. And I just thought that was really cool, because Excalibur does a really good job of actually giving physical descriptions of the people involved. I've said before that he he described the colours of Private Party's attire when they first debuted, and again I noticed that he's done it a few times really, where he's talked about the reach and the length of the limbs, etc. And I just thought that it was a really nice little call, so he got a point for that. Excalibur just started sucking up the points in in this match. They were coming thick and fast. So we get a delayed vertical suplex by Cody, and Excalibur starts selling this. And I really thought it was cool because he starts talking about the fact that Cody's allowing the blood to drain to Guevara's head. This is going to affect his equilibrium, make him dizzy. He's going to have horrible pins and needles in his extremities, which is going to make it harder for him to move around. And I just like when commentators play up the physical effects of a move and actually tell you what it's going to do to your body, especially when it's just something that would normally just be like oh, that happened. Because if it had just been like, delayed vertical suplex by Cody, I'd have been like, okay, nice. But the fact that he actually went into detail about what that does to Guevara's body, I was like, okay, cool. So he gets his second point for that. Cody hits a middle rope cutter, and the commentary splits the call in half, with Excalibur being like, from the middle rope, and JR actually saying, cutter! And I was like, okay, neither of you gets the point because you both sort of half-arsed it, but like I said, it got split in half, the call did. But a nice move nonetheless, a little middle rope cutter. Then they go back and forth with some quick near fall attempts, Sammy trying to put Cody away quickly before he ends up hitting his own cutter, which Excalibur gets another point for because of the way that he describes it. He got this really good way of describing the physicality in the match, talking about just really helping illustrate and give you visual descriptions in terms of, so say Sammy gets this cutter and Excalibur's like, Sammy springing up, turning his back and driving Cody's face right into the canvas. And I was like, the fact that he uses spring rather than just jumping or something like that, and then I don't know, I just really like the way that he did it. I thought that it made it sound really easy to visualise, it really clued me in on the fact that, you know, Sammy's got this explosive movement behind him, and I just thought it was really cool. Sammy starts fighting back, but his arrogance costs him, because he gets a step-up enziguri, which might have actually given him a little bit of an opening, but he can't resist playing to the crowd, and he turns his back on Cody, who wipes him out. They fight to the outside, and eventually Guevara pulls Brandy into the line of fire, and Excalibur earns himself another point, because I feel like other commentators would have just been like, oh, Brandy, that's his wife, and she's just been sent into the barricade. But Excalibur sort of sells it like it's a really dastardly move, and also tells us that Brandy hit her head, which I just think makes it that little bit worse. You know, if she'd have just hit a shoulder or a back or something, that wouldn't have seemed as bad, but the fact that she hits a head and Excalibur makes it sound really nasty makes it so that you're like, oh, is Cody going to be able to focus now? Because that's his wife and she's just hit her head, which is bad. And I just thought that was a really cool one. So Excalibur up to 4 at this point. They really went all out in this last little bit of the match. I actually really enjoyed it. So when they get back in the ring, Guevara goes for a moonsault but misses, tries for another one, ends up hitting a running shooting star press. And I thought that was really cool. A nice little like, oh, I tried but I missed. And then it just really shows the tenacity of Sammy Guevara. But he gets distracted by Brandy Rhodes, which allows Cody to hit a disaster kick. And I thought it was over right there. I was like, oh, the fact that he attacked Brandy, came back to bite him, Cody's just hit one of his big moves. I actually really thought that it was going to be over and it was going to be a case of Sammy just costing himself, which he did end up being in the end, but not because of this. But one of the things that I really liked was the fact that this was so well timed in terms of being close to the 10-minute mark. I'm sure NJPW does it, but I haven't watched them enough to know. But one of the things that I've noticed from AEW is that they do a really good job of timing these big story beats in the match close to the time updates, etc. And it just makes it feel like it makes it feel big. I'm not sure why, but the fact that it's like, oh, it's halfway through the match and this really big point just happened, and I just think it works really well. One of the things that's like guaranteed almost in wrestling to just get a reaction from a commentator is a big top rope move spot, but Excalibur earns himself his 5th point because we get an avalanche reverse suplex by Cody, which Guevara kicks out of. And I just really like that he actually called the top rope move. Again, all the commentators with that spot would have just been like, oh, a big move from the top rope, etc., etc. But Excalibur actually lets us know what went on, so he earns himself his 5th point for that. And 5 points, that is a... It's not unprecedented. I think it has happened before, but the fact that he got that high, I was like, wow. Excalibur is going to be going high up that rankings table. And then JR earns himself a point too because Guevara is making a comeback. JR's talking about the fact that his equilibrium must have been affected, and then goes crazy because Guevara hits a Spanish fly on Cody, which Cody kicks out of. And I just thought that was a really nice moment. JR was just about to sort of start talking about the fact that Sammy was done for and couldn't believe the fact that he pulled off the Spanish fly, which made it feel like an absolutely huge moment, and really could have been, if not, I don't think it would have ended the match, but it was definitely a really nice big spot, and it basically was more or less in the closing moments, because the only other note that I have is the ending, which is Guevara going for a shooting star press, which Cody gets his knees up, Guevara lands on the shins, and Cody gets an inside cradle for the win. And I just thought it was really cool. I was worried about what they were going to do with Guevara and Cody, because I didn't want Cody to just squash him and it make Guevara look bad, but this, it really, really didn't. Because I never thought that the Darby Allin match made Darby look amazing. Like, it didn't make him look bad because he hung with Cody, and it makes him, in hindsight, it makes Darby look even better because of how long he managed to last and how far he dragged it out with Cody. But I thought this match made Sammy look really, really good, especially considering the later repercussions in the night, and the fact that he basically beat himself with his arrogance, because he could have gone for some other move, something a little bit safer, but instead he had to showboat, had to go for a big shooting star press, and that cost him. And then the fact that Cody is just... he knows what he's doing and went straight from that counter into a pin. I just thought that it worked really, really well, and I gave it a 5 out of 6. Post-match, Shivani's about to do an interview with Cody, but Chris Jericho comes out and starts beating the hell out of him. It goes to a commercial break, which was a little bit annoying. The commercials during this were sort of annoying for me, just because they go to picture-in-picture, which means everyone else can see what's going on, and I can't, and it's not like I get commentary at that point. So the commercials happen, and then and then when it comes back, Jericho's still beating up Cody a little bit more. He gets a big pile of chairs and just power bombs Cody onto him, and then tells the audience that he's Chris Jericho, Le Champion of AEW. And I just thought, really effective way of transitioning from Sammy to Jericho as the opponent, pushing that Full Gear storyline, and reintroducing people to Chris Jericho. If there's any of those lapsed fans that AEW are after that are flicking through the channels and they see Chris Jericho, oh wow, he's the champion, that's really cool, like, what is this, what's going on here? So I thought this was a really, really solid way to kick off the show, to be honest. We got MJF versus Brandon Cutler next, which was probably one of the most disappointing parts of the show. I've been quite into MJF, and I was really looking forward to seeing him in action, and this was such a short match that I really didn't connect with me. I don't know whether it's just because I was whether I'd have been one of those people in the crowd that was like, yeah, I'm kind of burnt out from that first match. I was getting crazy, really enjoying it, but it just felt really short. So MJF comes out and he does his shtick on the mic, starts talking about Brandon Cutler, and says that Cutler is he's the man that lost his way past the barricade, that he reminds MJF of all of the losers at home and in the crowd, and that he's going to find out that D&D isn't real, but MJF is better than you, and you know it. Already becoming a little bit... It's like, okay, we've seen this from you now, of you just being sort of nasty and running down the crowd. I want to see it just a little bit more, especially considering that this match didn't really show off much either. It literally... I've got one note when it comes to it. One series of notes, I guess, but there we go. JR talks about the fact that Cutler has got long legs. It didn't really go anywhere and it wasn't worth a point, but I was glad that he pointed it out. Just a little visual of Brandon Cutler. Tony Schiavone calls MJF a little prick and says that he wants Brandon Cutler to shut his mouth. I actually gave Tony a point for that. It showed a bit of character, made me like him a little bit more, played up to the TV-14 thing, and put himself against MJF. And I always like it when there's I always like when a commentator doesn't like someone. I guess it's a little bit more annoying when it's a heel, but when it's a face, there's always... I really liked it with Tommaso Ciampa and Mauro Ranallo when they were going through that little sort of feud thing. So it'd be quite cool if over the next few months they play out sort of a little bit of a dislike for MJF from Tony Schiavone. I just thought it was really funny calling him a little prick. Then we get Brandon Cutler hitting a suicide dive and starts raining shots down on MJF. Excalibur points out the fact that Cutler tweaked his knee on the landing. MJF starts fighting back, clocks Cutler, and then submits him with the salt of the earth. I gave it a 3 out of 6. I really didn't feel like it did any of them any favours, to be honest. I think it would have probably been better if there was just a little bit of a promo segment or something like that, because it just didn't work for me in terms of... I'm not like, oh, I need to see Brandon Cutler's next match now, and I also don't feel like that with MJF, but I don't want to stick on this for too long, because it was just sort of probably one of the points of the show that I could have dropped. This next section of the show is to hype up the tag team tournament. Gotta say, I didn't really enjoy this. I don't particularly enjoy celebrity involvement in wrestling anyway, unless it's something really decent, and this was just sort of a little bit cheesy to me, in my opinion. Jay and Silent Bob are there. They're plugging their new movie, saying that Chris Jericho is going to be in it, and then TH2, the Hybrid 2, Jack Evans and Angelico come out and start talking trash to the movie guys. The movie guys are like, oh, you can't even win a match. Then they're about to get a bit aggro. Private Party come out and protect the movie guys, and then that's that. I was like, okay, that was a waste of time. I know people are going to be like, you don't like fun, but it was just like, okay, considering that the catch of this... the catch of AEW is supposed to be that it's like this wrestling product. This felt like a completely... this felt really sports entertainment, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to say it was a WWE-esque thing, because I'm sure WCW and all the other ones have done stuff like this, but this was a proper sports entertainment moment that I didn't enjoy. Then SCU cut a promo, and I sort of, again, I was like, what is with this? Because they do a pre-taped bit, and they do their little SCU shtick about this as being the worst town that they've ever been in, etc, etc, and I just didn't think that it worked not in front of the crowd. But then they come out anyway and start cutting a promo, and I was like, okay, so why have the pre-taped bit? I just don't see the point in it. Like, why do the pre-taped bit and then have them come out anyway? They should have just done the shtick that they do in front of the crowd. Then they talk about the fact that Kazarian and Daniels are going to be the representatives of SCU in the tag team tournament. Lucha Bros come out and say that they're the best. SCU disagree, they brawl, and security break them up. I actually enjoyed that bit a little bit more. I didn't like the celebrity involvement bit. really, I was just like, okay, especially with it being Private Party that came and defended them. I guess that was sort of cool. I guess I'm just not a fan of celebrity involvement. But the SCU and Lucha Brothers bit was a little bit better, especially for building up that tag team tournament and making me feel like, oh, what's going to happen now? Hangman Page versus the Bastard Pac next. I really enjoyed this one. Probably thought that it was the highlight of the show. I'm probably a little bit biased because Pac's a British guy, and I was just like, I'm just really, really ready to get behind any of the British guys that they got on the roster. But I was just really glad to finally get this match and see where they were going to go with it. And I thought that it was really good. I thought they did a great job in it, like even during the entrances of building this match, talking about Pac and how dangerous he is. Tony said that he was trying to psych Adam Page out with just the way that he was walking. JR and Excalibur talk about the fact that Pac has got a huge chip on his shoulder, and Excalibur plays up the fact that he's not just a great high flyer, he's also really good at striking and grappling too. And I just thought that was really cool. If you didn't know who Pac was, if you didn't know what his offense was like, you'd be like, okay, this guy's intriguing. He seems to be an all-rounder. They're saying that I've just been distracted by my phone shouting at me for no reason. He's an all-rounder. He can high fly, he can grapple, he can strike. Yeah, I know what to expect. Don't feel like they talked about Adam Page quite as much as they maybe should. I didn't get down any notes about what they said about him. But he did show his in-ring smarts early in the match. Tony Schiavone pointed out the fact that he was clever to not follow Pac to the outside when Pac was trying to lure him out. Hangman hits a clothesline and JR sells it big time. He's like, oh, that clothesline turned Pac upside down, inside out. And then Tony starts talking about the fact that Hangman is playing to the crowd too much. Hangman hits a suicide dive, and Excalibur only reacts to that, which I was really surprised by, but JR actually picked up the slack and called the suicide dive, so JR is on 2. Then we get a fall away slam from Adam Page and a springboard crossbody from Pac. Really, really liked the pace of this match. I liked how back and forth it was going, the fact that they were both really trying to put each other down. I just thought it worked really well. Pac starts hitting mule kicks and strikes to the body, which Excalibur points out is because he's trying to soften up Page for the brutalizer, and then he plays up how much trouble that caused for Kenny Omega when Pac beat him. Then we get a really nice bit with an avalanche blockbuster from Page, which is shortly followed by a drop kick by Pac that sends Page into the ropes, but Page flapjacks Pac, and Excalibur got another point, taking him up to 6 points for that, because he just called it really well. I love it when I can write down a full exchange, when it's all going really quick, and when it gets to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm going to miss it, and I'm trying to type really fast to keep up with it. It's a little bit easier when I've got my Xbox, but I don't have that over the next month because my girlfriend's dog sitting. She's got it with her because she needs entertainment. So it's not as easy. I've got to just sort of watch it all in one take and keep up with it, but I thought that Excalibur did a really, really good job with that bit. Pac sends Page into the post, so many P's, and then it goes to a commercial break. Picture in picture really annoys me because it's like the match just carries on for everyone except me, and then I have to watch commercials, which half the time don't even actually say what they're advertising. Like, it's okay if there's like, I don't know, like a Popeyes commercial or something, because they've got like a jingle or something that they say in the advert, but half the time it's just stupid adverts with little skits that I just don't know what's going on, and I don't know what product they're selling. It's just, this isn't AEW's fault, so I shouldn't really complain anyway, but it's advertising complaints. Anyway, after the commercial, Page makes a comeback. He hits a spine buster, looks for the dead eye, and starts a sequence that ends with a powerbomb for the near fall. It hits a big moonsault, looks for the buckshot but misses, and then Pac hits a low blow and manages to capitalise on that with the black arrow into the brutalizer and picks up the win. I really enjoyed this one. Again, gave it a 5 out of 6. Was really effective in building Pac as this horrible bastard character, and is really doing a good job of building some empathy for Adam Page. I'm really glad that they didn't put the title on him, because I'm not that into him yet, but I can already tell that his redemption arc, his fight back into the title scene, is going to make me get into him, especially if he can show a little bit of character. But the fact that he's just coming out on the wrong side of these dastardly people like Jericho and Pac, it's really cool, and builds some proper pathos for Adam Page, as well as really getting some heat for Pac, letting him play up to that bastard name, as well as like just actually having some shenanigans going on. It's not just a win or a draw or a loss, it's actually from something that was... Page might have done a little bit better if Pac hadn't hit him with the low blow, but ref didn't see it, so who cares? And I just really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that these two will have another match at some point, because from what I saw with this match, it seems like they've got a lot that they could throw together, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where both men go. It's the women's match next, the one single women's match. Come on, AEW, you can do better than that. But nonetheless, it's a title match. It's Riho versus Nyla Rose, with Britt Baker on commentary for some sort of reason. JR really made me laugh at the beginning of this, because he was taking shots at people for sending him hate mail, which I think I might have been included in that somehow. For anyone who doesn't know, I had some issues with the way that he presented Riho, and voiced those on Twitter, and got shouted down by a lot of people, and now JR's taking shots at me and anyone else who sent hate mail. Hate mail. It wasn't hate mail, JR. I was just pointing out a point of view. It's like, oh, Nyla Rose with the clear size and strength advantage. I'm probably gonna get hate mail now because I'm making fun of Riho. I'm not doing that, people. It's just data. Clearly, the bigger, stronger woman has the advantage. And I was like, okay, we'll see. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but we'll see. And then Britt Baker, again, on commentary, and she points out the fact that Riho almost doubles Nyla in terms of experience, having 13 years under her belt, which means, as they point out, that she only started at 9 years old. Oh, look, JR, you can put someone over and not talk about their size. Talk about the experience. Of course, the woman who has 13 years experience has more of an advantage over the woman that doesn't have quite as much. I was just like, there we go, JR, look at that one. Riho just goes right after Nyla Rose in these early moments, gets the pedal to the metal straight away. She's hitting drop kicks, then she hits a head scissors, and JR actually had a fairly nice moment where he talks about the fact that Nyla Rose weighs 185 pounds as Riho bridges out of the near fall. And I actually thought that worked pretty well. Again, pointing something out like that as Riho's pulling off something good isn't what he was doing last time. My issue last time was that her heart's smaller than her waist, folks, and all 95 pounds of her, etc, etc. Whereas in that was putting over the size and the strength of Nyla as Riho was doing something that showed her strength too. Bridging out made her look good, and I'll give credit to JR that was a decent call. Riho hits a double stomp and Nyla Rose just no-sells it. Again, like the fact that they're playing up the power there. Just like, get double stomped, don't feel it at all. That's a monster person right there. Don't care whether that's a man or a woman. If you no-sell a double stomp, you are an hard bastard. Then we get submission drama as Nyla Rose locks in a mystery submission that she uses her weight quote, that is a quote, that's not me, using her weight for the submission, which Riho then has to crawl to the ropes and has to, quote, use her, carry Nyla Rose and her own weight to the ropes. Really playing up that size difference, maybe even a little bit too much again at this point. Like, we get it, you've already mentioned that she's huge, we don't need to know every 2 seconds every move. It's like, okay, yeah, you can say that she's using a weight, but then you don't need to point out that Riho has to carry her own and Nyla Rose's weight. It's like, just stop playing up on it, Jesus Christ. 2 running knee strikes send Rose out of the ring. Riho goes up to the top, but waits a little bit too long as Rose turns round. Riho launches herself, but Rose catches her, hits a big move. Then Rose goes to get a chair out, and the ref is like, nope, and disposes of the chair. Riho tries to take advantage of that moment with hitting big strikes to the face. Then we get a spot where Riho hits a top rope double stomp right to the spine, which I gave Excalibur a point for, because again, could have just been big double stomp, or that was a big moment, but the fact that it was right to the spine, just makes it sound that a little bit more brutal, helps you visualize it. The fact that, you know, Rose is obviously trying to get up at that point, Rio's just jumping on top of her, just thought it was really good, so that puts Excalibur up to 7. Riho tries her very best to power Nyla up, but she collapses, which was a nice moment, really showing the heart of Riho versus just how heavy Nyla is. I think that they played a little bit too much on it, but it did make Riho look good in these later moments. Then we got Nyla was making fun of Riho for not being able to get her up. Riho went for a leg capture roll up, which the fans were absolutely convinced was a 3, and we got a Death Valley driver, and then we get a avalanche Northern Lights suplex from Riho. She goes for a running knee strike, which she misses, and gets a double knees to the face for the win. And I was really glad that they actually did go for it, because with how much they played up the weight thing, it would have made Riho look a little bit pathetic if Nyla had won. But at the same time, JR might claim that he was just telling a story, that he was telling the underdog story with her. But if Nyla had won, it'd have made Riho look terrible. But the fact that he played it up so much kind of telegraphed the fact that Riho had to win, otherwise she'd look pathetic. So either way, maybe they shouldn't have played it up quite so much. But I enjoyed this a lot. I thought it had some really cool moments. One of the things that I noticed that wasn't in my notes for some reason was the bit where Rose stacked up a load of chairs, tried to get Riho onto him, and hit a cannonball senton, but missed and just sentoned herself into the chairs. God, that was, my tongue was just getting absolutely tied around that. But I thought that was a really cool spot, and I really enjoyed the match in general. Thought it made Riho look good. Really glad that she won. Britt Baker was kind of miserable. I'm not sure why. It was like, listening to it, I guess that they were maybe trying to play up the fact that she was miserable, that she wasn't the one in the title match, and just keep her in our minds so that we remember her going forward. But she sounded absolutely miserable, and I was like, wow. But she also didn't say much. In the post-match angle, we got Michael Nakazawa coming out. He's like, for all the Japanese fans, I'm going to do an interview with Riho in Japanese. But then Rose starts laying Riho out, and it all starts breaking down from there. She's attacking Riho, but Kenny Omega comes out. And I was sort of annoyed by this point, because I was like, really? Because, like, after that, Rose just sort of, well, whether she did something or not, commentary didn't say anything, so they just made it sound like she just sort of scarpered off. So it was like, oh, I'm going to beat up on Riho, but as soon as Kenny Omega turns up, oh no, a man, and just gets out of there. And I just didn't like it. If you're going to have one women's match, a good friend of mine pointed this out as well, if you're going to have one women's match and only the one, then I don't want the men involved at all. They don't need to be. I know that Riho and Kenny Omega have got history. I know that Kenny is like the head of the women's division, but I that even taking out the fact that he's a man, is the authority figure coming down and getting involved. It's like his Steph come down to stop like a brawl, which just it's like, I don't know, I don't find it that cool. But the fact that Rose just didn't want any of it and didn't do anything, I was like, oh, because I thought she was going to lay Omega out at first. But yeah, I just thought that was a little bit annoying. But other than that, this was another 5 out of 6 match. Thought that it worked really, really well, and I can't wait to see where Riho goes with this championship. And now it's time for that crazy main event where everything and the kitchen sink was thrown in. It was actually pretty good and pretty enjoyable, but let's get to it, and then I can talk about it a little bit more. So it's Team Jericho versus the Elite. Jericho, Santana and Ortiz versus Omega and the Young Bucks. Commentary play up in the early moments the is Kenny going crazy, is he struggling storyline, and they mention the fact that they're used to the Young Bucks being a little bit more peppy, but they've got a little bit of a serious edge to them right now. They're worried about Omega, and I really like that this Omega storyline of him unraveling is just playing out over the course of a few months, and I assume it's going to carry on from here, especially considering everything that happened. We get a super kick party on Chris Jericho, and I think maybe one or two of the other ones, but I'm not going to lie, the commentary fell apart a little bit in this match. Mox makes his entrance. Jon Moxley comes down, starts attacking Omega. They brawl. He hits Kenny in the kidneys, throws him over the barricade. They brawl a little bit more. Kenny attacks Mox with a broom, and Excalibur screams, "The cleaners in DC tonight!" Which I was like, okay, really? Because you've only just done the being the Elite thing where Kenny is like said that the cleaner's not coming back or whatever, and you only waited a week to do something like that, but nonetheless, thought it was cool anyway. And then we get the most brutal part of it all, because they fight into the locker room, and Mox gives Omega the DDT, the Dirty Deeds, the Death Rider, whatever it's called at this point. He gives it him through a glass coffee table, which sounded awful and actually did make me go, oh! And the person that was in the room while I was watching was like, what just happened? So I really, really like that this all just fell apart. The fact that Omega was supposed to be there to help the Young Bucks, but Mox comes out and that's it. He gets tunnel vision, he's going after Mox, and them two are fighting. And then the fact that it was like, no, not through the coffee table, no, just this horrible, nasty smashing sound. I really hope that was just made out of sugar glass or something. Like, there's no reason for it to not be made. Like, if that was a legit glass coffee table, it must have been gimmicked, because no way would Omega walk away from that completely fine. Yeah, Mox being a nasty, evil bastard and giving him his DDT through a coffee table. Excalibur picks up his 8th and final point with Santana and Ortiz double teaming one of the Bucks in a sequence that I couldn't have possibly written down all the moves in, but nonetheless, that little bit where Santana and Ortiz are just double teaming whichever one of the Bucks it was a really great little sequence that Excalibur called really, really well. Jericho goes for a lionsault, but knees up, so his midsection gets hurt. Tony picks himself up his second point by letting us know that Matt is hitting those locomotion Northern Lights suplexes that he does, and then Matt's getting beaten down a little bit more, but he fires back, hits a running bulldog. He goes for some sort of big move and gets intercepted, and then the resulting sort of melee that breaks out from the end of that sees Jericho hit the Judas effect, and they get the win from that. And I thought that it was I'm really confused by these Young Bucks segments, these matches with them in, because they're always really fast, and I lose myself, and I sort of enjoy myself, but I sort of hate it, and I just really don't know where to fall on it. But I gave it a 4 out of 6. I didn't hate it, I didn't think it was bad. It did make me wish that I had eyes, though, that worked, that I could see, so I could see how everyone moved and all the stuff that was going on, because it's not like I don't like tag team action. I actually do, and used to think it was quite cool, especially when I could see the tags happening and all the different double team moves, and there was quite a lot of that in these matches with the great double team offense, etc. So I thought that it was really good, but everything just sort of kicked off in the post match angle. So post-match, a brawl breaks out. Cody runs down to come and help his friends, and then Sammy Guevara comes running down. He starts helping the heels. It's like, ooh. And then Dustin comes running out to help as well. But the real big moment was Jake Hager, aka Jack Swagger, came out and joined the heel side and absolutely started wrecking everyone, including Dustin, who he gave a gut-wrench powerbomb onto a podium, they called it. But yeah, a gut-wrench powerbomb on Dustin. I was like, ooh, poor guy, that can't have been good. I was a little bit confused. I was like, really? Jake Hager? Jack Swagger? Last time I saw that guy, he was not in a good position, but it's been a long while since I've seen him. I've heard that he's improved. I don't feel like it was maybe as much of a big deal as AEW would have wanted it to be, but it also played into this establishment of this heel faction with Jericho, Santana and Ortiz, Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager, that's a really nice evil henchman team. I actually really like that. I've said before, I said to a few of my friends that I think that Jericho needs to get himself an eye patch now. Needs to have like that Metal Gear Solid eye patch, Big Boss Jericho. I've never really played Metal Gear too much, but I know that at least. And I think it'd just make him look that he's such a cartoonish villain these days, even to the point where he's now leading a stable. He just needs like a twirly mustache and an eye patch. I thought it was really, really strong, this show. I know that I complained about certain things like the celebrity involvement and some of the stuff with Riho and Rose with the way that they were talking about the weight, but for the most part I thought that it was all really, really strong action. Cody versus Guevara was a 5 out of 6 match, and that was really, really great. A really solid way to start off the show, especially considering with this post-match stuff, the fact that Sammy originally shook his hand and was like, yeah, we've got no problems, was really awesome, considering that he was like, I wonder then whether he knew that he was joining that stable in kayfabe, like whether it was like, right, at the end of the show we're all going to go running out and fuck them up. But I just thought that it was a really, really solid first episode. Probably better than I thought it was going to be. I definitely think, for me, Hangman versus Pat was probably match of the night. I don't know why. I just really, really enjoyed it. I'm enjoying the story of Hangman trying to get himself back into the title picture, get his win-loss record a little bit better, get back on the horse a little bit. I'm not going to go into more cowboy references, but either way, it's just nice to see him starting building himself back up, and nice to see Pac launching himself up that ladder with some dirty tactics and just being brutal and nasty, and sort of going the opposite way of Hangman and trying to just get ahead by any means possible. Riho as the champion, I think, is really cool. Hopefully they'll sort of maybe start playing on her size as much, because I really don't think that I sent JR hate mail. It was sort of funny that he mentioned it at the beginning of the match, because I was like, God, I forgot about that. Like, if you've really been thinking about that for that long, like, I'm gonna get hate mail for this, and I was like, it wasn't hate mail, it was just my opinion. But the fact that if they don't think that they represented her differently in this match in terms of playing more on Nyla Rose's size than Riho's size, and also making Riho look good, like when she bridged out of the move, I think that they changed the approach, so they must know that they did it wrong. I don't know, it just it just made me laugh. But yeah, a really, really strong show to begin the AEW Dynamite train, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it too. So, a points update at the end of this. Excalibur comes out with 8, JR has 2, and Tony has 2, which, if I'm not mistaken with maths, is a combined score of 12. But where will they come in the actual rankings? Well, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to know where they place and where the NXT commentators place, make sure you subscribe so that you can come back later, watch the NXT review and watch the ranking video when that goes up, and you'll never miss another episode of WITD. If you've got any thoughts about Dynamite, NXT, blindness, or just life in general, you can drop them in the comment section. You can follow me on Twitter at Mason_WITD, or you can join the Discord server that I'll be posting in the description. Right guys, I'm off, and you should have a good one.